I was working close to 70 hours a week. My wife and I are kind of getting along. Marriage is okay. I wasn't giving the lifestyle that I wanted for my kid. And I broke. And I'll never forget. It was 2:00 in the morning, just sobbing. Just don't know what to do. Frustrated at the world. Think I suck as a husband, as a father, as a human being. I hit my capacity. At one point in time, through different situations and things that happened in our life, we ended up living in a car. All I can remember is there were moments in time where my mother would cry in the front seat, and that's all I would remember hearing. One day, I literally got dragged out of my own home, and I literally got the crap kicked out of me. Couldn't see out of one eye. I lost my hearing. My mother found me on the front steps of our doorway, and she drives me down to like this karate school at the time. She goes, "I don't have a lot of money right now. I'll pay whatever I have. Don't ever let this happen to my son." Those are literally her words. I will tell you, I am not the smartest. I am not the strongest, but I am by far the most consistent. I will show up every day, whether it's getting my ass kicked, cleaning up crap, whatever it is to do it. That's going to build me to do whatever else. Suck at being a husband. Suck at being a father. Want a better life for you and your family? Click here. I didn't know at the time was like an alpha male boot camp, which is what they're calling it. But honestly, it was the most life-changing thing that I've ever experienced in my life. And then after that, it was all of the things that are now possible because you have everything out that was negative and pushed so far down out that now you can go build the life you truly deserve and want. If there's ever a problem and you want to fix it, it's you. If there is ever a reason why you're not getting to your goals, it's you. And as long as you realize it's you and only you can do something about it, you can literally become completely and utterly unstoppable.
How much of you is chosen and how much of you is forced? In this episode, we welcome Nuno Tavares to explore how adversity, instability, and survival shaped his inner warrior long before he had the language for it. Nuno shares his early experiences of immigration, poverty, and how those years developed a survival-driven mindset that carried into adolescence and adulthood. He opens up about bullying, violence, and how martial arts became the turning point that built confidence, discipline, and resilience. But this conversation moves beyond survival into identity, fatherhood, and questioning whether the same traits that build you can also sustain you. If you found value in this one, support the mission. Please kindly subscribe and leave a review. It helps the show grow. And that means that we can reach more men who are navigating that messy middle of growth and support them in becoming more self-led. Thank you so much. I'm Harrison, and this is the Growth Voyage Podcast. Enjoy. Okay, we're live. Nuno, welcome to the show.
How are you, man? Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, really cool to have you on. And what I've been reflecting on recently in terms of the man's journey, men's transformation, a big part of that journey is accessing the warrior archetype, right? It's the one trait, it's the one archetype which I personally really relate to. And for me, it represents the ultimate embodiment of discipline, courage, focused action. It's more than just physical prowess or fighting. It is the energy that provides men with resilience, the drive to overcome obstacles and challenges, and the determination to protect and serve a cause greater than yourself. So what I want to know for you is, at what point in your life did the warrior have to come into play?
So it's a pretty loaded question. So just a little background, right? So so you and I had this discussion, and I think it's been pretty amazing. I think like different parts of like your internal warrior come out in different parts of like wherever it's kind of needed, right? So I could tell you really early on, even though I was one of the smallest, one of the kind of like really scrawny kind of kid, it was always that level of like kind of survival that existed. But the warrior would come out in points where I guess like it wouldn't really be entitled to do so. So for instance, like we came here at a very young age from Portugal. I immigrated over. I'm in America now. And when we came over, we left a pretty comfortable lifestyle to really start over everything here. And then when we moved to the States, we moved in a very crime-ridden zone in an area where we have a very small apartment. At one point in time, through different situations and things that happened in our life, we ended up living in a car. So that particular moment in time, you're talking about a 5-year-old kid who's like, and I don't remember everything, right? Everything when you're that young is like so over exaggerated. The car size, how long things happen, like how, everything's over exaggerated. And I can't tell you if we lived in that car for 3 days or like a week or a month. All I can remember is there were moments in time where my mother would cry in the front seat, and that's all I would remember hearing. And out of like sheer desperation, I mean, I know we got out of the car. I know what she had to do in order to do that. I mean, she worked like 3 jobs. I stayed at like brand new neighbors' houses that we literally knew very little of. And it was kind of crazy. And then like, because there were no choices. It was either that or keep living in the car. And eventually, over time, things eventually got better. So at that moment in time, just having the courage to like, one, watching your mother go through that at a young age, you just don't understand. All you see is your mother's pain and you don't understand what's happening. Like you can't help it. You get this internal conscious of like, oh my God, this person's suffering. You don't know how to help. You feel kind of useless. And I don't remember a lot, like I mentioned. All I remember is her crying in the front seat and me being witness to that. And not once or twice, several times in a day. And then being left at strangers' houses, not knowing who they are, sometimes not even speaking their language, because it was a mosh posh of where we lived. It was a melting pot. We had every culture, every language that you can think of. And literally I would be staying at other people's houses that she had to be friended through work or through just being in the community. And, people that actually naturally felt bad for us and gave us a little place to stay while, my mother was recovering or from like, not having a job or coming here from a fresh country and not speaking. And then moments and times like that, man, you regress a lot of things as a natural man, like, and you and I talked about this, we tend to like bury things. Cause we were taught, at least back in my day, like you don't cry, you don't show weakness. You have to always show tough. If you get knocked down, you got to get back up again. It was all these things that were like literally force fed and embedded you after a while. And all that stuff with my mom and like staying at other people's houses and growing up in that kind of environment, in a really dangerous environment, like you don't know how much repression that does at a given time. And then also being fed in that you have to be strong, you have to be this, you have to be that. At a moment in time that kind of builds up. And then you become this, you create these walls, and the what I consider the internal warrior that comes out is in moments and times where you just have this ridiculous courage. You have no idea where it comes from, just to do the things you need to do to get by. You know what I'm saying? The survival. So I honestly think that it does that. So it started there, and then it migrated in different spots. It started there. I moved out when I was 18. There were moments in time, again, where I got stuck living in the car again. So it was this weird cycle because, you were trying to make a living, going to school, college, paying my own way. And again, moments there where I just didn't know I could do certain things, and that happened. And I think I told you my kind of origin story of like that really kind of made me get out of my box. So at around the time of, I'm going to say probably 13 or 14, we moved out of that really bad area of where we were, and we moved into what we considered a better area. Now, mind you, I was growing up with like what I consider hood kids, ghetto kids. Like we all were from different nationalities and different backgrounds. We played in the streets. Like everybody's talked a certain way. We acted a certain way. And everybody's just like got along. And then when you didn't get along, you fought each other and you punched each other in the face. And then 2 days later, you were friends again and everything was great. And it was kind of like the life that we lived. And it was great. Even though it was a really bad area, we just kind of made it work. And I had an incredible childhood after that. And it was a lot of fun. And I have a lot of great memories. Then my parents, fearing the area still being that bad and me now going to high school and the high school being really, really bad, she's like, you know what? Like, let me do what I believe is best in my decision. Let me move you over to another town. Now, the town that I moved into, I was literally the only kid named Nuno, which made me stand out quite a bit. And, and I got picked on pretty heavily. And one day I literally got dragged out of my own home, and I literally got the crap kicked out of me by like, I can't tell you if it was 1 or 3 or who knows. All I know is like literally got dragged out of my door, got knocked out. And then when I came to, I couldn't see out of one eye. I lost my hearing. I didn't know I lost my hearing until way later. I lost like 70% of my hearing. Beat up. And my mother found me on the front steps of our doorway. That's how, crazy it was. And then that part, my mother, again, probably the most courageous woman I've ever met. We were literally not making as much as we should. We just moved in. They spent all their money trying to get to this new area that we were in. And she literally doesn't know what to do. She drives me down. Like, I still can't even, like, my eyes half shut. Like, I'm a disaster. I can barely walk. And she drives me down to like this karate school at the time, and literally walked in. I'll never forget this either. Walks me in, the whole classroom stopped, like the whole class. Cause I'm like, you got to imagine, I'm like, my face is swollen up. I got black eyes everywhere. My ribs, I couldn't even walk. And then all of a sudden the instructor looks at me and goes, holy crap. Like, it stops the class, tells the person to continue. And she goes, I don't have a lot of money right now. I'll pay whatever I have. Don't ever let this happen to my son. Those are literally her words. I'll never forget her for the rest of my life. And I sat there and I was like, and I didn't even know what to say or do. And he's like, okay, you got to heal up a little bit, but I want you to stay here and I want you to watch. And I literally came there every day after school. Like, I would come home from the bus. My mother would literally drive me over, take 15-minute break from her work, drive me over there. And I would stay there for like hours, for like 5-6 hours every day. Watch for the first 2 weeks until I healed, then started training. And then for those 2 years, I avoided everybody in high school. It was the worst time of my life. Like, I had no friends. It was horrible. I was terrified. I was terrified for my life, but all at the same time, learning how to fight, building confidence, getting courage to do whatever it was. And then one day it just all clicked. It just started standing up for myself, didn't let, started fighting back, started not becoming an easy target. And then people just let me alone. I started making a few friends here and there, but I was like so repressed and held back, man, because it was like between growing up in the way I did, coming from a pretty, humble background. And then all of a sudden, getting the crap kicked out of you, getting humbled even more. And then slowly gaining confidence after like 2-3 years just to like walk through high school and not like having to be terrified to getting your ass kicked. And it was so funny. The first fight that I really got into after like that 2 year, I didn't even fight back. It just like, he kept trying to hit me and he just couldn't land anything because I either moved or I blocked or so it was not like I became like this like massive terror of a fighter. I just became like, I didn't become an easy target. And then I got more confidence and all that started building. And in the meantime, the martial arts and all that, on top of that, like kind of grew in. But I mean, that's like the early on, not super emotional, like gotta catch up, the one I kind of discussed with you. But that to me was like the buildup of everything that I didn't even know. And you and I share that story. For you, you also tapped into at some point, it just, I don't know if it's called, I don't want to call it a break. I don't know. Maybe we want to call it something else, but like, I don't know if it's an emotional break, a breakthrough.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one because as you've suggested, that was an extreme example where you just mentioned there. And I can't imagine like the instability and all this chaos going on and you just as a kid, not really being able to process it. So there's all of that going on, which again, like who knows what kind of like patterns evolved from that. But then, yeah, I liken it in the best way I can to my journey. And yeah, I think it starts off with quite kind of low self-esteem. And there's this, certainly bullying in my case. And yeah, it's like you don't actually have an alternative. It's like there's no other option because you're not going to stand up for yourself because that's not in your nature. And there's really a kind of like there's no real direction there. And I think you get to a point where it's like you have enough of other people's stuff, right? And you're kind of just done with it. And I remember in my instance, I just started like just fighting back. I was just like, right, hang on, have a piece of this. And I got sent home from school. I think it was once in my primary school and then twice in secondary school, which was out of character for me. But I was just like, right, just have some of this. I think it just comes to a breaking point, I suppose, when I think your needs, or the greater your need for some sort of power or autonomy, whatever it may be, becomes greater than your sense of fear in a way. But I imagine in your case, there was a lot of fear that you had to kind of break through. And I loved how you kind of used the martial arts in a way, which kind of gave you that direction and gave you that kind of confidence to the point where, yeah, you'll be fighting back, but there'll come a point where you're just like, hey, I don't even need to, because I think people can sense energy perhaps, and they can sense a greater sense of self-confidence. Is that what you think happened for you as well? Your confidence just kind of increased and you're able to kind of...
I think the confidence part becomes part of it, right? Because so for instance, like I didn't have a lot of athletic ability until I started martial arts. Martial arts was a gateway for everything for me. Because it was I would say it was the first life-changing like alteration that happened that definitely put me on a different path. If I probably didn't have that, I probably would have been messed up in a lot of ways that I probably wouldn't have tapped into, because it gave me an out. It gave me a place to go when I wasn't accepted. It gave me a skill to learn, and it made it entertaining. And like, I think like, even with your wrestling and stuff like that we talked about, like it takes so much discipline. You have to keep doing it over and over and over and over and over until it becomes like muscle memory. And then, yeah, I think it is that. I think it's like knowing that, like right after that first initial interaction, when the guy tried to come at me and I was blocking everything, I didn't even hit back. It came to the point, like then it triggered in my brain going, can't hit me. Or whatever you're doing is not hurting me, because then I was already getting hurt more at like the karate school fight there than this guy was throwing at me. So it was like kind of like pointless. I was like, all right, this is kind of stupid. You know, it got to the point where I started laughing. The guy's like, why are you laughing? I'm like, are you trying? I literally remember, I'm like, are you trying? I'm like, because I was confused. Like, I was like, I remember getting hurt and getting my ass kicked. And I'm like, this is not like that emotion and feeling. So, I mean, was the adrenaline rushing? Was I terrified? Absolutely. But after like the first few swings that this guy took, and me just like, getting into repetition, it kind of like broke it down. But I will tell you though, because this is the thing that I never ever realized. And I say men because I don't know what women go through, right? So I know what I go through, so I can validate my opinion. And in talking to other people and watching them go through men-wise, like I can understand that. Like I said, the repression of our memories and stuff like that, to your point, you literally just said it. Like if we were all on this cycle and all of a sudden, like it's not in us to fight back, it's not in us to do these things, and all of a sudden you start doing it, something triggers inside that is like the enough point. And like that enough point is harder for certain people depending on your background and how much you've taken on, like abuse wise. Like I have friends that unfortunately had their parents pass away really early on. I had other friends that went to jail like really early on, like for doing stupid things, like at 16 years old that maybe should have been like a year, ended up being like 5 years, like because it didn't harm anybody. Like they stole the car and it was like their first misdemeanor offense or whatever it is. And like 4 years later, they're like, I went to jail for that. And then that path set them off completely in a different direction and they can't recover. So there's a lot of like crazy inflection points that really will tear you up. And it depends the amount of courage and the amount of desperation. I've also seen a lot of these friends that have been through these tragic things. The ones that hit the rock bottom the hardest are the ones that spring up the hardest, like the best up forward. Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced that. Like you ever like talk to one of your friends and they're like, they hit rock bottom and like 3 weeks later, they're like, they have a job, their shit's getting together. And you're like, what the hell? How did this even happen?
Well, I mean, it's a great point. I mean, I think you almost have to hit that rock bottom point to then go back up. But you raised another interesting point, which is actually what defines that trajectory after, because the same thing can happen sometimes to two different people.
Yeah.
And yet one person uses it as fuel to change their life, and the other, it kind of, it kicks them while they're down and they can kind of get stuck there. So I think that's something to really just sit with as well. Like, what determines whether you want to kind of keep on going or not? Is it what you consume? Because I don't know about yourself, but I never even learned the concept of like self-responsibility, for example. So even the concept that I could change my life or I could do something about it, that was pretty foreign to me. And I can imagine for yourself as well, it wasn't even a thing. You didn't even know what a growth mindset was, right? So what is it? I mean, we've talked about jiu-jitsu on the podcast before, right? Where you walk into your first jiu-jitsu session, you get your ass beat up the whole time, and then you think, right, you got two options there. Either, oh, this isn't for me, I didn't enjoy that, that was awful. Or you go, I want to be the guy to do that to the next one. And what defines that? Do you think it's is it genetic? Is it a character trait? Is it your destiny in a way? I mean, what?
I'm definitely God-fearing because, like I said, I've been in enough near-death situations where, me personally, like, there is something there overseeing somebody, like, and guiding your path, because, like, literally there's been a lot of, you're talking to a guy, I didn't think I was going to live past 35 or 25 at that matter in certain stages of my life. I mean, that's how hard it was. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I saw too many friends pass away. I saw a lot of my friends go to jail. I saw people, like, going into drugs. I saw, people just not getting at a certain lifestyle because they couldn't make enough money to break away. Like, there were so many pushing down factors of, like, you'll never be this. Like, even college, I'm the only person in my whole entire, like, family to complete college. Like whole family line. I mean, I can't even, as far as back as I can, on both sides of my family. So think about that. Like there's never been, other than sheer desperation and survival at certain points in my life. For instance, I was living in a car. The only way I could get out of car is I needed a job and a place to stay. Then the place I stayed at was too small. It was weird. I lived with like 10 other guys. I had a room and a shared bathroom with 10 guys. Like, it was insane. You know what I'm saying? Then sheer desperation, like, okay, well, I don't want to be here all the time. Like, what do I got? I got to make more money. Okay, get another job, or do this, or can I get a raise, or can I do more at the job? And it became very, like, in that space. And then through sheer randomness, and I'll get to the part of, like, so fast forward, right, man? So fast forward to the part where I just started learning, the harder that I worked, and the goals that and small goals, because I didn't know how to set big goals. I really honestly didn't. It was always like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? I started getting to that momentum, not thinking bigger picture ever, like buy a house, or it was more like, I need a bigger place. That became the next goal. Well, my car broke down. I need another car. Well, my car's really bad. It doesn't do well in winter. I need a better car. It started becoming these stupid little, like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Well, can I get this now? Can I get this? Well, I need a computer because I want to go online. I'll go get a computer, So my brain started fusing at some point out of sheer desperation because I didn't want to be in what I was in anymore. And I knew that if I accelerated in certain things at that point, because I started seeing results, right? I started working a job, started doing really well, started collecting a lot of tips because I was waiting on a bartender for a while. The better I did, the more tips I get, the more place I can afford. And then the logic and the instincts started kicking in. And I'm like, okay, well, if I make more money, I get more things. Let me just focus on making more money and getting more things. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with karate at the same time.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's definitely points there which I'd love to touch on. And before we do, I really want to rewind back because there were quite a few things there that you touched upon. And one of them was this kind of like, you mentioned the kind of like God-fearing, right? And I think that word, even now, I think it kind of turns people away from like spirituality, religion. They're like, why would you fear God if God's all loving? So I picked up on that, and tying in with that as well, I think a lot of the time people think, okay, well, hang on, why was it you that was able to climb out of that situation when you were kind of dealt that hand? Could it just be down to the fact that, on kind of like a 3D level, okay, you just, I don't know, there was an element of, I don't like to say luck, because I think a lot of it was down to you. Do you think a lot of it was just like, hey, I just managed to get out of it, some people didn't? Or do you, like, why, or could you maybe expand on that? Like, is there a reason why perhaps you had the tools to get out of it and other people don't? I just want to expand on this.
I had people that were in better situations, that didn't get out of it, got in it, and then I have other people that had less situations, like worse situations than mine, way worse than mine, and got out of it and then get out of it. I had variations of all of it. I can't tell you. I will never say it wasn't luck. And what I mean by God-fearing in the sense of, I don't like, I respect the universal laws. And this is the way I put it. I will never want to do harm on anybody because I wouldn't want that harm inflicted on me or my family. So fearing in the sense of the law of I can't even say it, but there's just like, do unto others what what you want done unto you. And the fact that whatever belief in karma you have, if you believe in like luck, chance, God, spirituality, any kind of thing is, to me, God-fearing is not, I'm not afraid of God. I respect the heck out of God and of the universal kind of like reciprocating like factors here. Like, it came to a point in my life that I've also realized the more good I do for people, the more that does return back. And not at that moment in time. And I've also learned to help only those that want to help themselves, because the problem is that I got offered doors here and there, but they weren't like these massive opportunistic doors. They were like, hey, I'm going to give you a shot. It's going to suck what you're going to go through, but if you make it, then you get a bigger shot. Like, I got offered a job to go clean bathrooms and toilets at a hospital. And at the times, this is back in the 1990s, in the at the time, the AIDS ward. Like, talk about being in like, at the time where everybody was like, where you thought if you touched somebody, you would get something like that. I want you to remember that, if just to understand how crazy it was back then. Right. That was like my 11 to 7 job, like my first week, dude. So I like, go back to that desperation model. I'm like, you can't tell me that I haven't done and earned my share. But that was the door that I was offered. It wasn't like, hey, here's a $30,000 business, have at it, and like, see how you do. It was like, no, go clean crap in a very highly infested, contaminated area. I'm like, let's see how you do.
It's funny, isn't it? It's kind of like this pay your dues thing that you see in many different industries. I mean, wrestling is one, right? It's like you kind of have to pay your dues by, helping out. You help, you don't just get booked straight away. You've got to go out, help set up the ring and get to network with people. And then maybe you'll be, I don't know, the term jobber is used quite a lot, but you'll take a couple losses and then build up I think it's the same thing, but with the laws of the universe in a way. You kind of got to, work your way up. And I think that's quite a cool way of looking at things.
But the reason being is like, other people that I wouldn't know that were worse spots wouldn't have taken that. They wouldn't have. So a bit of ego and a bit of like, that's what it is. Now, I will tell you, as I've gotten older and more spiritual, like based on a lot of my personal life experiences, and again, a lot of like near death experiences, just praying and doing all that, I've also learned that whatever universal force, again, God in my case, yours would be different, you believe in, puts things in front of you. But if there is so much noise and you're not ready to hear it, you will miss that opportunity. Because I think that that's also where I was in tuned enough to just say, nah, this is a bad idea. Or, hey, this is a good idea, but you're going to have to take your licks. Or, hey, help this person now and don't expect anything. And I still to this day, if you talk to anybody that I know, I overgive. And sometimes I overgive to people that really don't want it. And even though they ask for it, they really don't want it. They don't want your help. They don't want the opportunity. And I remember it was like, when I was doing interviews, when I raised up the ranks in the banking world, I was banking for 14 years. Like, people felt entitled that they should get the job. And I'm like, they would come into the interviews, and you got to remember my situation, right? You're talking to a guy that used to clean toilets, and that was his first job. And all of a sudden he's like, well, I graduated college. And I remember one guy threw his resume. That's how he started the interview. He comes in, he's like, what are you guys going to do for me? He threw the resume at the table, and I like kindly picked it up. I'm like, absolutely nothing. And I'm like, you have a good day now. And I was like, but you see what I'm saying? So like, I think there's a lot to unpack there, but I think that that's part of it there.
Yeah. Well, before we kind of, touch upon other stuff, where do you think that kind of discernment comes from? Do you think that's kind of like, is that something you kind of cultivate over time to learn like which doors to close and which ones to leave open, what's noise and what's aligned? Is that something you've had to cultivate? And if so, how?
No, I think it's a lifelong thing, man. I think like even to this day, there are days where I have tons of noise and I don't know how to get through it. There are days that I don't feel like God is talking to me, like I'm not seeing the picture of what the plan is. There are days where I'm just angry at the world and I haven't quite figured it out. There are days where everything sings and is flowing and I'm in that flow and I can do a gazillion one things and not even know. I think the amount of time you spend on each of these stages is something, a skill set that you have to like develop over time. And that skill set can be part of a lot of things. Your determination, how well you do things, the being able to just be consistent. I think consistency in all of this is the one that always, to me, is the biggest skill set and the thing that has to change. I will tell you, I am not the smartest. I am not the strongest, but I am by far the most consistent. I will show up every day, whether it's getting my ass kicked, cleaning up crap, whatever it is that it is, to do it, knowing that there's going to be a resource at the end of the day, that's going to build me to do whatever else. And I'm trying to teach my kids that. And it's the hardest thing, because I'll tell you, as being a parent of 3, that instilling, and it was funny, the other day, I joke around with them. I mean, back in the day when we were growing up, man, we had a thing called like the wooden spoon, and you get the belt and you get all these things. And it's like, sometimes I say, sometimes you guys should just at least feel it once. And I've never in my lifetime will ever beat my children ever. But it's just, I joke around with my son. My son's like 14 and he's like, and I taught him how to fight because again, my dad never taught me how to fight. Like he wasn't around. He didn't teach me how to fight. I gave him the option. I'm like, look, every man and every woman at some point in time needs to learn how to defend themselves and know how to fight. It will happen. It is a chance in world that you will get to somebody that will try to harm you and you need to know what to do. So, like we joke around and we roughhouse with my girls. And they just, so then they understand, and they understand how the body works and everything else. I teach them how to defend themselves a little bit. But the reason I do that is because I'm trying to stable some consistency, because the consistency is what they're lacking. Because if you look in the world now, look, I work in the world of marketing now. And the attention span of a human being is like less than a goldfish. Like it's 3 seconds. And kids are even worse. Kids cannot stay consistently at one thing because of YouTube and shorts and all this craziness. And it's very hard to teach consistency. And you can't block them from it because the world is shoving it in their faces like 24/7 when you're not around. So good luck in trying to do that. And the worst thing you're going to do is all of a sudden they're 20 years old and they're on their own and they get exposed to Facebook for the first time. Might have an issue when that happens. You know what I'm saying? So if we tie everything back together, consistency was always my thing, because whether it was the cleaning of the crap, whether it was becoming a bartender, whether it was like getting a shot into management, then from management, going from one management job to another to always go into the higher, which is scaling up the ranks in corporate, then to opening up my own thing. It was always consistency, getting up every day, getting better at everything that you do, learning at an extreme level, and then pushing through. Because even when I was poor, you couldn't take away me learning, and you couldn't take away me doing things for myself that I know would do in. But I got to tell you, the one thing that instilled that in me was martial arts, because I got in every single day and we were doing the same kick 100,000 times over, the same punch 100 times back and forth over, days and weeks and months and years at a time. And even then, you would throw a punch and your instructor would come by and be like, lift your thing and turn your wrist. And you're like, what the freak? It's been 3 years. Am I still imperfect? But it kind of gotten to the point. To this day, it's hysterical. My son jokingly put me in a headlock and he's about my size now. And I was so fast and I'm on the ground. He's like, what just happened? And I'm like, force habit. I'm sorry. You know, like I didn't even realize it happened. And like, you know, instincts will go in because of that repetition. And it gets going to your question of like knowing which door, that's where your instincts and your natural space start going, man, I've done that bad thing several times at this point. I know if I go do this thing again, bad things are going to happen. And some people are hard to learn, man. Me and one of my closest friend, Kevin, he's a coach. He's a worldwide coach. He coaches thousands of men. And we talk about this all the time. Some people learn that when you start putting the round hole in the square peg that it doesn't fit, then you got people like me and him, and maybe like even like you and some other people on this that are listening to this, where like, nah, it's going to fit. We're just going to hit it and hit it and hit it until it gets through. And then somewhere along the lines, you just cut the damn thing and put it in the right hole and then you'll be fine. So I learned the hard way. Proven fact. Whether it's a beating, whether it's monetarily, I learned the freaking hard way.
Yeah, and again, I love that you kind of tied it all back to martial arts as well, because that was exactly what I was thinking. You know, there's the fighting, there's a consistency, and that teaches you more than anything, I think, or at least in my experience, the power of like the compounding effect, showing up consistently. And hey, you might not be the strongest, you might not be the quickest, tallest, whatever, but if you keep on showing up, then that's where you can outwork everyone, outrun everyone. Such an important point. And I know in my life, when I haven't felt that kind of momentum and I have felt a bit stuck, I'm like, okay, well, where am I being a bit too comfortable? Where could I train more, for example? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to double my training sessions. I'm going to work out at a higher intensity. And I was just like, let's just live life at the edge and let's just keep turning up and just do the hard stuff. And I think I found over time, similar to yourself, where I think it's just a sense of fulfillment that you get from that, you know, it's harder to kind of lose that than kind of like a temporary high. You know, it's like you build up those character traits, and I imagine for yourself, these just continue to expand, right? So you've had this kind of like resilience, you've had this kind of grit, you've had this stuff pretty much.
Grit and resilience, those are massively big words for me. Like, yes, yeah, agreed.
But then it seems like, well, at first you didn't really have a choice. You was like, well, you have to be resilient, otherwise you're just not going to survive. And then, okay, you go into martial arts and then you kind of start choosing the stuff. And then you started talking about, right, setting goals, one thing to the next. And there's one part of that which I really liked, which was this idea of like, right, next thing, next thing, next thing. It seemed like that was quite a natural process for you. And I think like a lot of the time, especially in the modern day, I can certainly speak from personal experience, it's very easy to get kind of trapped in this like long-term thinking or thinking of the vision ahead without just focusing on the next step. And so it was quite interesting for me picking up on that actually it was your natural instinct, because there was that drive and resilience. You didn't have time to think over here. It was just, right, I need to do this, this, and this, which I think is a wicked asset to have, and something which I imagine is quite rare in today's day and age.
Yeah, I know, but you're completely on point, man. And I like, but let's just go back to resilience and grit, man. I will give a job to somebody I feel that has resilience and grit over every overeducated person I can ever encounter, because I rather have the guy or the woman who is been there and worked their way up and figured it all out when there was no tools, no resources, than the person that has been not through that experience of like not knowing things, learning them, and then more importantly, failing and then relearning them all over again. Because resilience and grit, in my opinion, will give, and I want this for my kids. My daughter is a beast. She is 10 years old. She literally, not even a month ago, got kicked off a massive horse, man. Massive. That horse is like taller than I. Like the chest started at where my head ended. That's how big this horse was. And one of her legs is the size of my daughter. Like that's how big and thick this horse was. And the second this horse came out, and like my daughter's riding that thing, it looked like a mountain of a horse. And she got on it. And man, from the second, talk about instincts kicking in, dad vibes, whatever you want to call it, spider sense, man. I'm like, oh, this is not going to end well. Like I looked at that horse. It looked angry and mean and big. And I was like, oh man, my daughter's like, she's like tiny. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like watching, and I go to watch her, and the horse bucks. First ride goes through, everything's nice and cool. Second goes, third one, she's being, the instructor's holding on. The horse bucked once. On the second buck, it threw my daughter off. But worse yet, the horse turned in. Instead of walking away, it turned in and like got her twice in her back. Now imagine the hooves are like this big and my daughter's head is this big. But she got trampled a couple times, and I ran to her, and she's like, I can't feel my leg. And like the second she did that, I mean, like talked about like having an emotional breakdown. I didn't even know what was happening. I didn't know whether to punch the horse, whether to take my daughter to the hospital or move my daughter, like all these raging emotions coming in my head. And then the instructor is like, is like, just get up, just push your legs down, push your legs down. And she did, and she started walking around, and everything was good, and she wasn't hurt. She had a big hoof mark on her back. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, and then the instructor looks at me, she's like, she's got to get back on. And I'm like, she's got to get what? And I'm like, she's got to get, and he looks straight, I mean, like doesn't even flinch, looks me dead square in the eyes. And he's like, she's got to get back on. And I'm like, there's no way on this hell she's getting back on that horse. And I'm like, we're having a full-fledged argument. My daughter's like, I'm literally holding on my daughter. Well, for a second ago, I didn't think she could walk again. And now I'm like, I'm looking at him, and he's dead set on it. He is not budging. And he's like, she's got to get back on now. And I'm like, she's walking, she's fine, she's bruised, she's hurt, she's got to get back on now. And I'm like, the reason I'm telling you this, and this is why, is the resilience and the grit. And like, I'm looking at him, and my dad brain is like, I'm going to fight you right now. Like, this is not happening. Like, we are going to get into fist fights. Like, this guy is like dead set against it. He's like, she's going to get on right now. And my daughter looks at me. She's like, okay. And I'm like, my daughter says okay before I did. And I sat there and like, this is okay. This is a dad moment. Is it, do I put her back on, or do I let this be what a deciding moment is? And as much as the raging emotions were happening, we let her back on. And I told the guy, if this horse moves, you're the first one to go down. And I'm like, because I'm so tense right now. And he's like, no, just, I'm holding on to the horse, but she has to get back on. So she gets back on. She's going up and down. She's like trying to figure out, the horse didn't move. And then we bring her out, and then he's like, I want to go home now. Then I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Let's get in the car and go. And the guy turns to me, if we didn't do that, she would have been terrified of horses for the rest of her life.
Ooh.
And I sat there and I'm like, what? And then I came home and I'm telling my wife all this, and she's like, yeah, she needed to get back on that horse. And then we gave her the option, be like, look, if you saw it, it was pretty dramatic. It was like, the horse was massive. It stomped her not once, but 3 times, and missed her head by like fractions of a centimeter. And I gave her the choice. We will never force you to go back. 2 weeks later, my daughter decided to go back. But you see what I'm saying?
That's
like
powerful, man. Yeah.
But it's the resilience and grit. Imagine at that, and now like she picked up rollerblading. She fell on her ass all day long. She went outside by herself, and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, where'd you get the rollerblades? And she's like, and I'm like, you got to get a helmet. And she's like out there. She's like, no, I got it, Dad. I got it. I'm like, awesome. And it was just mind blowing, because I think that one situation now propelled that, like, I can get back up again. I can do this on my own. And I'm like, so you see what I'm like? So resilience and grit, back to everybody that's listening, no matter where you are, man. Like, look, I literally lived in a car, have friends OD right in front of me. I have friends pass away in front of me. Like, I've had all kinds of crazy stuff happening. There is never a reason to get back to what you're doing and to get yourself right. It has to be such an internal, like, I just don't want to be in the crap anymore, man. I want to get out. And then depending on that drive, it's goal after goal after goal after goal. And it's like stupid little things. Is like I said, the first goal was getting out of the car. The second goal was like, I needed a place to stay. The third goal was I need a mattress. I know that sounds like a funny one, because then I got a place There was nothing in the room. I'm like, oh crap, I need a mattress. What do? I go get a mattress from the dumpster at the college yard. Literally, God knows where that mattress was. And then it became, okay, well, no, I really need another mattress. This one's kind of gross. Then it became all these little like survival based goals. And then that shifted, just like my daughter's like mentality shifted, that shifted to, more money, a better job, a higher position, of like in martial arts, like fighting abroad, like doing all these other different things. And back then, I think I told you, it was full contact, man. It was before UFC. It was like, you got a cup and a prayer. You got like a cup and a mouthpiece. That was your gear. And you got, man, I've gotten concussions, loose tooth in here. And you're talking to a guy that was terrified to fight. Now, I was definitely not the best fighter, but I can hold my own. You know what I'm saying? But it was just like the experience of all that. It was just like, what's the next goal? What's the next goal? But I got to tell you, the life-changing one, that later on in life, after all this, I got married. This is my second marriage, started having a kid. The kid was the one that really messed me up, in the sense of I didn't know how to be a dad. And nobody knows how to be a dad. Like, that's the first thing everybody's going to say, right? But I didn't have a role model of a dad. All the dads that we were around always worked. There were no parents at soccer games. There was none of that. We didn't have any of that. All of our parents that were in the neighborhood, in the hood, were all working. They were all working because they all needed to make money, because we could barely afford the rent we were in, so there was no, like, you at 10 years old, you were cooking your dinner, your lunch, and your breakfast. Like, there was no help. There was no after school help. If you stayed in after school, it's because you got in trouble. Like, there was like all these non-helpful things. So you get to this point where like, that's how I was raised. And all of a sudden you get to being a dad and you're like, well, my dad was kind of like not the best, so how do I what do I do? And I didn't know how to connect with my son. And he was the first, like my son's the older. I had no idea. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if what I was doing was right. I was trying to spend time, but I was also trying to make money. Because remember, to that point, the only thing I knew how to do was survive. Take care of me. Like, I know how to do me. Like, I know how to do I can help my wife out. She's a person my age. I can talk to her. I know how to do these things. I know what I got to do here. You throw a kid in that mix? Huh. What happens? And then I'll never forget it, man. It was like I'll call it a breaking point. I was working close to 70 hours a week. My wife and I are kind of getting along. Marriage is okay. My son was like about 3 or 4 years old. I didn't feel like I was being the best father I could. I mean, I really thought I sucked at it. I didn't know how to make it better. I wasn't giving the lifestyle that I wanted for my kid. And I broke. And I'll never forget, it was 2:00 in the morning, just sobbing. I never cried. My grandfather passed, my dad passed. Like, I never cried. Like, not a tear came out of my eye. Even when I got my ass kicked throughout those years, like, not a tear. Like, not a tear. 2:00 a.m. in the morning, I remember how old I was. I'm sobbing. Like, just don't know what to do, frustrated at the world, think I suck as a husband, as a father, as a human being. I hit my capacity. I graduated college. Nobody else did it in my whole entire life, in my family or anybody around. I had a house. Never thought I had a house. I now have a kid and a wife. Never thought I had that. The goal setting stopped because I didn't know what was next. I broke. I sobbed because I don't know how to be a good dad. I'm sucking at being a husband. I bought a house. I don't know what to do now. And I have the job that I need. And then all of a sudden, sobbing at like 2:00 in the morning, I literally, on the internet, there's a guy goes, suck at being a husband. No, not exaggerating. Are you ready? Suck at being a husband. Suck at being a father. Want a better life for you and your family? Click here. And it was an infomercial like 2 a.m. in the morning for this, what I didn't know at the time was what was like an alpha male boot camp, which is what they're calling it. But honestly, it was the most life-changing thing that I've ever experienced in my life. And I told you, it was like a 7-day boot camp for men where they literally run you through the ringer and rebuild you from scratch and take all those like old world expressions and like everything that's been instilled in you and like all the things you've been pushing down, and you get past that. And that was the absolute differentiator in the second part of my life, where everything's just started accelerating after that. And all it did in a really kind of like short clip understanding of it is it broke me down to the point that I had no walls left in those 7 days, meaning we were doing calisthenics, we were exhausted, we weren't doing any sleep, we were being reminded about how horrible we were for the first 3 days. Then there was massive breakthroughs, a lot of crying for a guy who never cried before. And then after that, it was all of the things that are now possible because you have everything out that was negative and pushed so far down out that now you can go build the life you truly deserve and want.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is just super powerful. And it was going to be my question, actually, because you built up all these character traits, all this resilience and all of this stuff. And yet when it came to being a family man, it's like, well, all of these tools, all of these character traits, they almost don't serve you anymore for this kind of chapter. And so it sounds like when you came across this retreat, it was like, all right, let's kind of like remove all of these stuff, all of this, by the sounds of it, right? Just this like trapped energy. I presume it's a way of just physically working so hard that you get all the trauma out your body or all the noise. Is that pretty accurate?
So again, we are taught to hold our emotions back, to be strong, not to be weak, and to always have a front up, like always. We're just designed to do that. I mean, even naturally, men in general, we are meant to be like the hunters and the gatherers and all that other crap, like, right? So if you really think about it, so instinctually, you are meant to just portray yourself to be stronger than what you are. So you naturally create a front that is always on. It's not like we don't try. It's what happens. So then imagine going to a place that literally gets beaten out of you, in not physically in the sense of but exhaustion of where you're doing all these things and you're just so freaking tired that a lot of the, I wouldn't say internal fight, but a lot of the walls, they have no legs to stand on. So therefore, it releases it a little bit more. It gives you an option to do that. And then it all comes out. Because when you get down to your core, at the end of the day, all that's left is emotions. Because physicality, you take all the physical out of everything, man. Take how strong you are. Take everything out. You're exhausted, your body, everything, man. You can't even lift I couldn't walk. That's how tired we were after 3 days. We have no sleep. So emotionally, I'm drained. Physically, I have nothing left, literally nothing left. You come at me with a hard question. It's like, why do you suck as a father? What front can I throw at you at 3 days in when I have nothing left? It's all raw emotion. It's all raw emotion because there's nothing left for me to fight. There's no fight left. It's like they do this in the army and in all these SEAL camps and everything else. They take the fight out of you to see what's left to rebuild a stronger and better version of you. This is the same mentality. But if you really think about it, if I took you and put you in a place of sheer isolation for 4 days and just exhausted you with manual labor and came back with you on the 4th day and asked you a freaking question, what do you think? What mental space do you think? There's nothing left. It's just what's going to come out. It's why kids at 5 years old will tell you the flat out and straight to your face and you laugh at it because it's so true. You know, my daughter says, I'll never forget, that was the most embarrassing moment, but it was eye-opening. She went to a woman that had short hair at 5 years. So she's like, you look like a man. And I'm like, you can't say that. She didn't mean anything intentionally. But that's the raw thing. She, in her mind, there's no filter, there's no nothing. You get what I'm saying? So it brings you down to your core. That's why, going back to the original conversation, that's why people in the deepest of desperation, in their lowest of lows, will pop. Because they'll pop up and just go a completely different direction because they got nothing left. And again, because men learn that square peg round hole thing, that's what's happening. So I'm telling you, and I didn't have to hit rock bottom again. I did before, in the earlier stages of my life. There was no less that I can go. But then when I had everything established, a house, a car, a wife, money coming in, a son, and there's not a rock bottom hit at that point because I'm already established, but I can't go further. So what did I do? I went to this thing, got broken down for 3 or 4 days, make fun of it. Anybody that wants to, by all means, it worked for me. I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, But what it did is it took a person who was already high performing, because I was hitting every bonus. I was hitting every tier of like my job. I had the house, I had the car, I had the wife, I had the kid. I had a degree, but then I was stuck. I knew in my brain and body that I was meant for more. God or your spirituality was telling me you are meant for more and you are meant to have impact. And here I am, not frustrated because I know I need to be here, but I can't get there because I don't know what I'm doing. And at least I thought I didn't know what I do, but all it was because I didn't know what the next thing was, because I never I hit all the things. And I'll give you an even bigger eye-opening one. Are you ready for this? The more successful you are and the better creator you are, the harder you're going to crash. I know people that have made millions and burn it all to the ground just so then they can make millions again, because that's what they know how to do.
Wow.
And that's how they get their dopamine hit, and that's how they get their fix. They will literally throw a grenade into a business operation that's working beautifully well, generating tons of money, everybody's happy. And the owner, who's this high-performing alpha male, who's hit this weird limit, and he doesn't know what's next, what he'll do, take a grenade, lob it right into the business, go, we're going to do this, and completely destroy it from the inside in, just to rebuild it all over again. Swear to you, I have seen this hundreds and thousands of times before. That's the most amazing and diabolical thing I've ever seen in my lifetime, but the most eye-opening in the meantime. And it's because they hit this weird emotional standstill of this thing that doesn't allow them to go to the next step.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole psychology experiment right there. It's absolutely fascinating and certainly something to think upon. I really enjoyed even just that image, right? Because it reminds me of plant medicine, where no matter how strong your ego is, it's no longer going to be able to hold this perception of you. So it kind of just bypasses all of that and gets straight to your soul. And it sounds like that was a similar process for you, which is absolutely fascinating. Nuno, I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to your story. There's so much more we could dive into here as well, but I think this just epitomizes resilience, grit, all the tools that you need to get to a certain point. And then just when you get there, it's time for another kind of rebirth. And I think you've illustrated that greatly. We'll dive into the closing traditions of the podcast. It is 3 questions. And the first 2 are the same. They're asked every week. And the third one is asked by a member of the Growth Voyage community. First one, nice and simple. It's a song recommendation.
Oh, beautiful day, man. Beautiful day by me. YouTube all the way. Beautiful day, because that's what I try to strive for every day. So. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, we'll pop that in. That was one of the first ones on Apple Music, one of the ones that came for free or something. So it rings a bell. Second one, book recommendation.
Wow. Book recommendation. I have a ridiculous library in here. I would say right now, I'm doing 2 and I reread it quite often. The Book of the 5 Rings is one of the best books, at least for the internal warrior, that I read. It's how to survive normal day war. Normal day war is like every day you wake up and you go to war. I mean, you don't have to have that mentality, but it's the Book of the 5 Rings. It's just like really interesting concepts to read. And then Profit First was a book that I keep revisiting. I think I must have read it like over 5 times. Profit First is how to make sure you and your family are taken care of profitability wise, like where you're paying yourself first and everything else afterwards in a multitude of different ways. So that book, those 2 books are probably my favorite right now that I've reread quite a few times at this point.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, we'll certainly put these in the description. So sounds very useful. Final one, it comes in from Nathan, and he said, what's a piece of advice you ignored for years that turned out to be true?
So I'll make this short. I went to another program. It lasted 5 days, like another self-improvement program. And it was great. It was another one that was really great. It was a lot about internal coaching and like just, how to get through yourself and everything else. And this woman was great. She was amazing. And it was about 55-ish, 60-ish people in the room. And it was a buildup. So every day you start learning tools and things that you can do for yourself. And at the end, she's like, okay, it's the final day. Everybody in front of you has the package. It's a box. And the box, inside the box, is a tool that's completely personalized to you to help you in your situation based on everything we learned in the 5 days. And wow, we're like, well, that's pretty freaking cool. Like, how cool is this? A personalized tool that's going to help you solve all your problems. And it's in a box. So we're all opening it. And when we popped them out, it was a mirror. It was the best and the worst thing because I literally laughed and I kind of cursed at the same time. I'm like, so if there's ever a problem and you want to fix it, it's you. If there's ever a problem with somebody else and you want to fix it, it's you. If there is ever a reason why you're not getting to your goals, it's you. If there's ever a reason there's not money in your pocket, it's you. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And as long as you realize it's you and only you can do something about it, your whole life will start to change, regardless of the situation. I know people with no hands. I know people with no hands, like no feet and hands. I know people that have no parents. I know people that have drug overdose. I know people that have been in jail. I know people that have been in every kind of situation you can imagine, have all risen up from where they're currently at, with them realizing that they were the reason they were in it and they were the reason they came out of it. And as long as you realize that, you can literally become completely and utterly unstoppable.
Yeah, it's a real big one in terms of self-responsibility. Absolutely massive. Yeah, Nuno, so many valuable lessons in this one. Really appreciate you and appreciate you sharing your story and all the wisdom that has come from it. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm all over on YouTube, man. I have a little YouTube channel there. You can find me, just look up my name, Nuno Tavares, and I'll still go by The Automated Marketer. I'm on social media. I give away tons of free education to help people that might be stuck, to kind of help them get out of it. Mostly around like how to operate in tech, which is what I'm really good at. And I help other people do that. So find me everywhere. There's literally easy to look up. I'm everywhere on the web, and hopefully I'll see you somewhere in there. And Harrison, this is awesome, man. Looking forward to some of your matches, and my kids are super psyched. So very, very cool. Other than that, thanks everybody, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Hey, brother, we'll put all these links in the description. Thanks, Nuno.